Okay, last section of this chapter, we're going to take a look at guidelines for self-disclosure. And there should be a hyphen there. I apologize. Okay, there's a picture of Beyonce here. This is from the last edition of the textbook. Because in her album Lemonade, she disclosed how she felt when Jay-Z was, when they had problems in the marriage. And some people thought the self-disclosure was great, and other people felt it was inappropriate. So let's take a look at guidelines that can help you make a determination if self-disclosing in certain situations is acceptable, or if it's not something you want to do. Okay, is the other person important to you? If this is a person with whom you have a fairly deep relationship and you want to continue to have a fairly deep relationship, remember that one of the benefits is that it helps with relational maintenance. It's possible that this is a person that you know on a little more of a superficial level and you would like to deepen the relationship. So that's why the person's important to you, so you try it. Okay, is the risk of self-disclosing reasonable? I think for a lot of people, that issue of at what point do you say to someone, I love you? And then a lot of people are afraid that the other person is going to say, yeah, I don't feel the same way. And so a lot of people would prefer not to say anything because you could run a real risk. Or if you say to someone, I always hated something that you do, and then they say, okay, well, we're not friends anymore. Okay, is the self-disclosure appropriate? There's a time and a place for self-disclosure, and you have to decide if where you are at that moment is a good place to share, to self-disclose. Is the disclosure reciprocated? Sometimes people are at a different stage in their relationship, so then you think you're at a certain point in your friendship or your romantic relationship or even your work relationship, so you self-disclose and the other person is not at that same state, so they are not interested in reciprocating. And then will the effect be constructive? This is especially when you self-disclose things like the book gave some doozies. When was the last time you heard the word doozy? I always thought you were self-centered. Or last year I made love to your best friend. Are you self-disclosing for good intentions, or are you doing it to be cruel? So again, you're the one who has to decide whether you're going to self-disclose or not. So what if you decide, in this situation, self-disclosure, not a good idea? There are some alternatives. So self-disclosure, I've been presenting it as if it's your decision to say something or not. But sometimes you're in a situation where it's an answer to a question. Do you like my hat? And then it's like, what do you say? Do you like the sweater I knit for you? How do you respond to that? So this first one, rather than self-disclosing, you can say nothing. Just realize that it's not, if somebody asks you a question, you can't, beyond saying, oh, my mother's calling me, I have to go, faking a heart attack, something like that. Silence does not work in answer to a question, but it can be an alternative. You just decide not to say anything. Then we get to the one of lying. Okay, we're not talking about a lie that's malicious. That's with the intent to deceive, like catfishing. We're talking about a benevolent lie. When I was in 5th grade, we had a family that moved to the neighborhood from, I think, I want to say Syria, Lebanon, kind of that region of the world. And they didn't speak a lot of English. And I, for some reason, would go over there and just, do a lot of smiling and nodding. And so the woman, the mother of the children, made something that was toast, and then she sauteed, I'm not sure, it seems like Italian seasonings, a lot of rosemary and thyme, and she sauteed them in olive oil, and then she put it on the toast, and it was pungent. And I said, oh, it's good. Okay, I didn't do it because I was trying to trick her. I wanted to make her feel good. Of course, every time she would see me, she'd say, oh, come in, I made this for you. So benevolent lies can backfire. Equivocation, I think, is one that a lot of us use. I go back to that grandma knit you a sweater and it's the dog's playing poker, and she says, do you like this? And you say something like, Grandma, I've never seen anything like this before. Well, that has 2 or more meanings, right? I've never seen anything like this before, and it is so wonderful, and it is absolutely horrendous. Okay. So equivocation, I think a lot of people will use. What's another word? Oh, that's interesting. We all know. Beware the word interesting, because it frequently can mean pretty bad. All right. Hinting, for me, is the trickiest one, because you're not going to come out and say it directly, but you're going to kind of go around the issue to let the person know what you mean. So the book says you're at a restaurant, and someone orders dessert, and you really think that dessert is not a good idea for them. A direct statement would be, you've already eaten a lot, why don't you skip dessert? Okay, that's fairly direct. You could say something like, these desserts are really overpriced, which is hinting that it's not a good idea to buy them because they're too expensive. Well, what's the problem with that? The person could say, oh, I don't mind spending the money. This one is my favorite. You're talking to someone, and a direct statement would be, I'm too busy to keep talking to you. Or, you need to leave now because, I've got things to do. We don't usually say that. So a face-saving hint would be, I know you're busy. I'd better let you go. Okay. So, sometimes the hint isn't to protect the person that you're hinting to, but to save the sender of the message from embarrassment. You want to ask someone, you want to say to someone, please come out to have lunch with me. But what if they say no, and you say something like, it's almost time for lunch. Have you ever eaten at the new restaurant around the corner? We are going to do an exercise in class where you see various scenarios and you think about, how could you self-disclose, or can you pull off silence or lying? So this is a good area to make sure that you take a look at to make sure that you understand. The book does a really good job of explaining it, much better than I do. Okay, so this is, I like this. This is in the textbook. It's clearer in the textbook than it is here. You can be equivocal, that's at the top, or clear. You can be true, or you can say something that is true, or you can say something that is false. So, I don't know why I have this thing about the dogs playing poker, but let's see. So your aunt and uncle give you a painting. Let's say it's an abstract painting, and it is not something that you care for. Okay, you can say the truth, and you can be very clear. Well, okay, I guess we're going to start with, I like to start in the bottom left-hand side. It's just not my kind of painting. I don't like the colors, the style, or the subject. Now, you don't have to say it in a mean way, right? Oh, it was so kind of you to think of me. It's just not my kind of painting. I don't like the colors. I don't like the style. I don't like the subject. Okay, that sounds a little more complaining than kind, but You could make a true statement, but be a little bit more equivocal. What an unusual painting. I've never seen anything like it. What exactly does that mean? Okay. You could have an equivocal false message, which I think for a lot of us, that's what we default to. Thanks for the painting. I'll hang it as soon as I can find just the right place, which would be right next to the garbage can. Okay. Or maybe we default to the clear message, but that's false. What a beautiful painting. I love it. Okay. The problem with a clear message that is false is it can come back to haunt you, like me eating that whatever it was over and over again. Okay. So we looked at the dimensions of truthfulness and equivocation. Well, here is the thorny question. Is it ethical to say anything other than the outright truth? We can be truthful. We can self-disclose without being brutal. Okay. Oh, here's my story. I forgot. My children were little. My daughter was 3. My son was 5. And I put on this outfit. Someone had given to me. It was a hand-me-down. This is white shorts, tops, vest. I don't know. And I looked in the mirror and I said, oh, I don't know. So I say to my daughter, what do you think, honey? And she says, oh, Mommy, you are so beautiful. And I thought, okay, she's kind of not, she's a biased observer. So I said to my son, so what do you think, honey? And he said, you look like a beluga whale. So I changed. So, I mean, that is being probably, he was self-disclosing. He was being clear and truthful. And at the time it was hurtful. Right now I think it's hysterical. So, of course, he was 5 years old. If you asked him that now, he would probably evade a little. All right? And we use evasion. I'm not talking outright lying. I'm looking more at, possibly a benevolent lie, but I'm looking more at the equivocation or the hinting. So it really gives us a way to manage a difficult situation. Either we're caught by surprise or we just aren't sure how the other person is going to take what we have to say. Okay. On the other hand, even in a situation where the truth can be painful, it's important to be honest. There's no, A plus B or A squared plus B squared equals C squared. We don't have a formula. You've got to figure this out. So when you are deciding if you are going to self-disclose or you're going to hint or equivocate, you should, just be indirect. Ask, is this indirect message in the interest of the receiver? Or are you doing it just to make things easier for you? I like the second one. Is evasion the only effective way to behave? Or is there another way that you can behave that is effective? Now, effective doesn't always mean kind. And effective doesn't always mean super direct. Okay? So remember, have you been able to get the message across the way you wanted to? And I like this one. So this is based on the work of Cicela Bach, who's an ethicist. It's kind of old, but I think it's still true. How would others respond if they knew what you were really thinking and feeling? Because sometimes we assume that people can read our feelings. You can read our thoughts. Okay, all right. And if this person knew that I was thinking, this is not an attractive sweater, how would Grandma react to that? Okay, and if you know that she would be incredibly hurt, then being evasive is the way to go. If you know that she would say, oh, well, thankfully, this was really hard to make and I never want to make another one of these again. Okay? So no one else can answer these questions for you. You're the one who's got to figure these out. So, chapter 4 is one of my favorite chapters. Actually, I'd probably say that about every chapter. There's a lot of good information here, both the theory and the direct applications. So, when you finish this section, maybe you go back and you read the textbook, can you define self-disclosure? So then the question is, can you explain why we as human beings choose to disclose and why we choose not to disclose? And then I would ask you to turn it to look at your own behavior, and ask yourself the question, why do I disclose in this situation and maybe not in this situation? And then last of all, what are alternatives to disclosure? And then what do you think about how ethical they are? I would really like to spend some time talking about that in class, because I think this is it's a very interesting topic for us to discuss. So I hope you enjoyed chapter 4, and I will see you in class on whatever day it is, Wednesday.